Very good. My name is Bishop Joe Vasquez. I'm the Bishop of the Diocese of Austin, and I'm representing the Texas Catholic Conference here this afternoon.
And your position on this bill
is in favor.
Yes,
exactly.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Bishop Joe Vasquez. I'm testifying in support of HB 2019 on behalf of the Texas Catholic Conference and the Roman Catholic Bishops. Mr. Chairman and members, you face a choice on this committee to endorse predatory lending practices of payday and auto title lenders in Texas, or to stand up for the poor and vulnerable families in our state. We urge you to stand with Representative Tom Craddick for the working poor by putting in place meaningful reform measures, which this bill clearly achieves. Other proposals being offered during this session but not being heard in this committee today continue to ignore the realities of the consumer, credit marketplace, and seek to codify worst industry practices. House Bill 2019 closes the loophole that allows payday and auto title lenders to charge unlimited fees. Chapter 342 of the Texas Finance Code was created to regulate short-term lending by these lenders. Although it sets fee caps that can result in 180% annual percentage rate, it is still better than the current practice and alternate legislative proposals that reach as high as 659% APR. Most importantly, House Bill 2019 makes a tremendous step forward in reining in the predatory practices of payday and auto title lenders. All of us have seen the proliferation of these lending storefronts that have flooded shopping centers and neighborhoods. We all have been bombarded by the radio and television commercials that promise easy and same-day cash to entice families who may have hit a financial snag and need help paying for groceries, housing, or utilities. Who suffers most under these loans? Minority women, mostly, often as the female head of a household struggling to make ends meet for their families. Studies suggest that those families who use payday and auto title loans are more likely to file for bankruptcy, experience eviction, and defer medical care because they are in deep to these payday loans. Make no mistake, no one is looking to force these lending outfits out of business. Advocates are merely looking to rein in the more egregious and usurious practices of bad actors. And Representative Craddick's bill does just that. We remain committed to seeking a meaningful reform bill that improves the situation of borrowers in Texas. We thank Representative Tom Craddick for closing the loophole that allows payday and auto title lenders to evade state regulation of interest and fees for short-term loans. The TCC supports this bill to curb usurious lending practices and stop the cycle of debt for consumers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bishop, members, any questions?
I just want to make sure the TCC is the Texas Catholic Conference.
Okay, that's correct.
There's another TCC, too. I just want to make sure that we get the right one. I don't know that they were for this bill. So thank you for coming today and sharing with us your thoughts on this legislation.
Bishop, we're trying to wrestle with this issue. It is complicated by the marketplace that exists today and globally for these services, with lenders going online or setting up shop in Indian reservations or offshore. Have you thought about how we can best sort of get our hands around this when consumers have these other alternatives to turn to?
I think it's not going to be an easy solution to this whole matter. I think this is why I think we're supporting this type of a bill, because it begins someplace, and even though still that high rate is there, it's better than the alternative, and then I think that's a much better start to this whole place. So I realize that there's going to be very complicated situations. It's not going to solve everything. This bill obviously doesn't intend to do that. But it's definitely taking a more serious look at the whole issue of the cycle of debt. And the people that are most impacted are the poor. and the vulnerable and those who need help. And I realize that they may not be able to go to the regular bank and get that type of loan that they're seeking, but at least there should be some kind of regulation and supervision of these types of organizations, these businesses, so that people are not taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate you coming up here. Probably one final question that I have, and I've begun having conversations with other concerned religious groups, and has who are looking toward maybe forming nonprofit institutions that can provide this need when folks are in desperate circumstances. Sure. To be able to turn to and maybe even compete in bringing down the interest rates. Has your parish or your archdiocese considered?
We have been looking at that, of course. Our hands are really kind of tied at this moment because we're trying to help people get out of the debt that they've already incurred. So many of our charitable organizations, Catholic Charities, St. Vincent de Paul societies, are basically trying to help people get out of that debt already. So I'm afraid that a lot of the funds that we already have to help the poor are going to simply get them out of debt.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I think there are maybe possibly organizations out there or other churches, religious affiliations that might be able to establish these types of organizations that would be able to then offer those types of loans to people. I'm not familiar with too many of those. Churches typically don't tend to have a lot of money to be able to give out. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up here and sharing your perspective on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.